What's up? Welcome to National Pleasure, your Nic Cage headquarters.
It's the National Pleasure.
I am your host, Doug Mellard. Get ready to explore the world around you through the eyes of Nic Cage. This time, we're going to discuss Nic Cage's shrunken head purchase. That's right. You heard it correctly. According to those who have visited one of Nic Cage's many homes, he is an avid collector. Just a collector in general. He loves to collect stuff, different things, all kinds of things. His various collections just happen to include a number of shrunken heads. And no one is really sure if they are illegally imported or not. Which, I mean, come on. I would like to think that he went through the correct channels, okay? They're also not 100% sure if they're actual human heads or if they belong to animals. Supposedly, they are shrunken pygmy heads, but again, there isn't really much info on this. That's what makes the legend of Nic Cage so great. Now, there isn't really a source on this, so maybe with all the bizarre purchases he is known to have bought over the years, someone just slipped it right in because it seems to track based on how Cagean a purchase it is. I, for one, believe it. I don't know how someone could look to Cage, the most mysterious and interesting man on earth, and say, I don't buy it. Right? I mean, it just makes sense. Believe. I like to think it wasn't purchased, but rather it was won in a high-stakes poker game on some mysterious remote island. His main opponent was some guy with an eye patch and a robot arm, and Cage obviously eventually claimed his victory, which was these, for whatever reason, uber valuable shrunken heads. That's the reality that I'm buying into, and I hope you join me. I suppose it's a conversation starter. I mean, come on, how could it not be? Did you shrink those heads? Hey, where did those shrunken heads come from? I've never seen a shrunken head before. Wow. I mean, seriously. They're not pleasant to look at. I'm not saying he shouldn't have them because I am never going to argue with Cage, but I personally wouldn't have shrunken heads in my home. It's someone's head. Seems like it would bring a weird energy and potential smell. I don't know. I'm sure it's doused in something to make it not smell, but I mean, it's an old head that's just laying around. It's weird vibes, but I'm not Nicolas Cage. Here's one question that randomly popped into my head. Do you think Nicolas Cage ever had a couple drinks and then juggled the shrunken heads? I mean, could have happened. We don't know. Now, this is all we really know on the subject. Nicolas Cage has some shrunken heads. But now that we're on this subject, let's take a quick look at why shrunken heads even exist. Why does anyone shrink heads? What's that about? Well, I'm here to tell you. There's a religious significance. The Shuar peoples of the Amazon rainforest believed that shrinking the head of an enemy would trap the enemy's spirit and prevent it from seeking revenge. The spirit was then transferred to a woman in the tribe during a ceremony. I mean, not the worst way to stop someone from seeking revenge. It would be hard to seek revenge after they're dead and their head is shrunk. It's also a display of prowess. The sansas were worn around the waist to show combat skills. I guess sansas means shrunken head. It was also a warning to enemies. The practice of shrinking heads was a way to warn enemies. I mean, sure, that only makes sense. If you're holding a human head, that's definitely a warning shot to anyone that doesn't want their head to be held in your hands and then shrunk. It's an economic incentive. In the 1870s to 1930s, Westerners created an economic demand for shrunken heads. Why wouldn't they? This led to an increase in killings to supply the demand. The sale of shrunken heads became illegal in the 1930s, which discouraged the practice of murder for this purpose, which, I mean, should that be the only reason that murder is illegal? However, foragers have made fake sansas out of the sloth and monkey heads to sell to international travelers. So, hey, just if you have a shrunken head out there, make sure It's a certified real shrunken head, not some donkey head. And if you ever wondered how this was done, the shrinking process begins with sewing the eyelids shut and skewering the mouth closed with wooden pegs. Next, in a large boiling pot, the head was simmered for 1 to 2 hours. This was how the head was shrunk and required a great deal of precise timing and care from those creating it. If left in for too long, the head would effectively lose its hair, and if it was taken out too early, it would lose its structural integrity. During the 18th and 19th centuries, as European explorers found their way to the South American continent, the explorers encountered the cultures that created sansas. The shrunken heads captivated those explorers, and they began to trade with the local tribes to take the heads home as souvenirs. Man, I thought rabbit's feet were kind of messed up as far as souvenirs. There you have it, a little history on shrunken heads. Pretty wild stuff. I was also trying to think of the top 5 shrunken or tiny heads in pop culture, and it wasn't as easy as I thought. I actually wanted a top 10, couldn't find it. So be sure to drop in the comments if there's a little head or a shrunken head in pop culture that I missed. So here it is, the top 5. The Beetlejuice guy, Harry the Hunter, was the name given to him in the first Beetlejuice. They all go by Bob, I think, in the second one. Beetlejuice. The character for Men in Black, whose head is tiny. These guys from the Super Mario movie in the 90s, which, by the way, really freaking bizarre watch. It's really hard to get a hold of. I had to find it on DVD. Wow, what a wild movie. And also, Kingpin from the Spider-Verse. I mean, this counts, right? He's got a little head for that giant body. And last but not least, according to Reddit at least, Julia Roberts. I don't know why, but this is out there. Julia Roberts on a Reddit thread has a tiny head. So we'll throw her in there. What a weird list that was. And now it's time for Nick in the News. This is exciting. So now Spider-Man Noir is in production, and more pictures were leaked out on the internet of Nicolas Cage on set. And one of the pictures is going to live in Nic Cage infamy. I mean, it's so good. I'll get to that in a second. But I love the captions under these pictures. They're all great, but one of the captions was, Nicolas Cage was spotted looking mysterious while filming his upcoming series, Spider-Man Noir, in Los Angeles. And I mean, he doesn't really look that mysterious. It's just because the word noir is attached to it, I guess. And then here's the one that I really love. Nic Cage with a hot dog. So, this is the one that will definitely live in infamy. I mean, this is just such a, I don't know why it makes me laugh, but it makes me so happy in my heart to see this. Just Nic Cage eating a dog. I love it. And we also got our first look at the Spider Noir costume, albeit from a stuntman. This isn't Nic Cage in the costume, but here's the first look. Pretty awesome. Can't wait for this to drop. I believe it's 8 episodes, so we have this to look forward to. And in other news, the John Madden biopic starring Nic Cage will be filming in January. So this guy stays busy. He's just going at it, dropping. So he's going to go from Spider-Man Noir to John Madden. How cool is that? Those are vastly different characters. And now for Face Off 2 update. There's a little glimpse of an update this week as opposed to recent videos. We've gone on a little drought for a while now since there's been an actual update, but this is the only little glimpse that I got. When asked what the Face Off sequel will be about, here's a quote from Nicolas Cage in 2023 that I hadn't found until now. I think Face Off is a sequel that lends itself to a lot of twists and turns and unpredictability. It's almost as if you factor in the idea of Offspring and Castor and Sean having children, and these children grow up, then it becomes like three-dimensional chess. And then it's not just the two, John Travolta and myself, it's 4 of us ping-ponging and going at different levels, and it becomes even more complex. I think there's a lot of fertile ground there. I had maybe 1 meeting in an office, but I haven't heard anything since, so I don't know. So, I mean, that's as much as we know about the plot. Who knows? That was from Nic Cage in 2023. It's not in production yet, so this all very well could change, but an interesting plot summary out of the words of Cage himself. Let's just hope this gets moving soon, because now he's moving on to Madden, and I know he's got other projects after that, but let's hope that Face Off 2 is in the pipeline very soon to start production. And now it's time for my favorite segment. What is Nic Cage doing right now? I believe he is currently the ringmaster for an all-sugar glider circus. It's got sugar glider clowns, acrobats, sugar glider jugglers, sugar glider cannonballs, sugar glider contortionists, all for an audience of left-handed men named Steve. Why? Because he's Nic fucking Cage, that's why. That's it. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share it with your friends. See you next time. Can't wait to see where Nic Cage's mind takes us next.